We are now on to excavator. So I'm going to go ahead and get it warming up out there and get it ready to come into the shop. I was going to wash it today and get it all cleaned up before bringing it into the shop. It's not too bad, but it's a little muddy from cleaning up the pig pen. But it's like 19, 20 degrees outside. And the wind keeps getting up in big old gusts. You can see what mud is on the track. It's frozen completely, so I don't think I'm going to worry about it too much today. I think I'm just going to get it started warming up for a few minutes, and then I'll bring it in and park it inside the shop for today and let it kind of thaw a little bit. Tomorrow's supposed to be 20 degrees warmer, so, and the sun's actually supposed to be out instead of just pretending to be. So I think I'll let it thaw overnight, and then we'll pull it out in the morning. Let's just get it in and thaw it out for the day. Well, it's in. I think that's the first time I've had it in the shop. Like legitimately in the shop. But it fits just fine. I just have to lower the boom to get it through the door. I'll leave it like this for now. Let it thaw. Tomorrow I'll take it back out front and hook up the power washer. And we'll get all the mud off of it. Really wash these joints real good. All these grease joints, especially down here near the bucket where it's down in the worst grit and grime. And then we'll get started on the things that need attention. So it's due for final drive services, hydraulic filters, engine oil service I'm sure is due. A few things like that. Got a hydraulic line that I need to figure out where it needs to go. It's for attachments that I've never had on this yet. And I just need to make sure that I have that figured out where that's going to go. Give it a good once over and grease everything and have it ready to go to work. I went ahead and did a couple of it already, and that's the work lights. There was a piece of wire hanging, but no actual light. It had been busted before. So I put a new work light on there. The cab work light was there, but it never would light up. Ultimately, I just replaced it with an LED style. And I added a second one that I had here to try to flood across the entire width of the blade. I had to replace the wiper blade. The bolt that holds my activation arm had broken and was broken off inside. So I had to take that all apart, pull that part out, get the bolt extracted out of there, and then get it back together and assembled with a new bolt. So that's all done. And then we have all of the new filters for everything. We got all that picked up the other day. All filters, air, fuel, oil, hydraulic, everything that we need to get the services done. I'm gonna get the oil drained out of it, start pulling the filters off so we can get some things changed out that way. Well, I'm still trying to chip through all of our maintenance and repairs that we got to get done so that we can be ready to use all this equipment once the weather breaks. We're right now in the middle of this mud season where we'll get 3-4 inches of snow and then warm up for 3 days. It just makes everything wet and soggy and muddy. And we still have, you know, a solid foot or so of snow on all of the forest and the main, just on the ground everywhere that's not been plowed. So it just keeps kind of starting to melt that down and then adds 3 or 4 more inches and then that melts down. So we're in this cycle right now, and it's probably another, realistically, it'll be end of April at the earliest that we'll have any kind of like snow really cleared and gone. So we still have some time before we're going to be really putting this equipment to use and trying to get some work done outside. And so until then, we got to get it all ready to go. So that's just part of the process up here. Okay, so those filters are prepped. I always write the hours and the date on the filters just for good reference, so I can just pop the hood and look at it, see when I did it last, and know exactly when I need to worry about it. Just right. We got 2 more quarts there. That's right, right between the lines. Okay. Okay. Couldn't find a short enough bucket to go up under there. But I used to use this trick all the time on ag repair on tractors and other heavy equipment, combines especially. Little cardboard funnel. And I don't know, it may not be messy, but I expect it to be dripping and running when I get this off of there. Yep. Some of that. Let's see, I think I want to wash that real quick. Convenient having my parts washer right there. Over here, I'm going to replace the terminal end. It's got one of these clamp-on ends, and I hate them. They suck. So I've got a new solder-on end to go there. I think we'll clean that up. It was kind of rusty coming out of there. A little crusty underneath, so we'll polish all that up before we go back together with it. Right. You can see all that nasty corrosion and junk in there. That's like rusty and crusty in there. That's got to be impeding the connection. Yeah, you can see all that green in there and the rusty colored junk all inside that clamp and everything too. So should help getting that cleaned up. This is one of those solder-on ends. It's pre-filled with flux and lead solder. I like them. I think they do a great job making sure you get a good solid connection to the wires. They're basically welded in. So I'm just going to get this positioned so that I can stick it in. I don't want to tip it up because I don't want to dump the solder out. Basically get one shot of that. So that's why I like to kind of go through the effort of pre-shaping and getting it situated where I want, just to make it easy. I don't want to have to monkey around with that a bunch when it's trying to go in. Once you plunge those cooler wires in, they tend to cool off the whole connection pretty quickly. This paste that I'm putting on everything, it's a dielectric grease that's infused with aluminum powder. They also make it infused with copper powder. Its primary use, I think, is for like electricity service lines where you have, especially where you have two dissimilar metals making an electrical connection. So they would use it like on the service lines coming from the pole to the meter of the house or something like that to make those connections and put it inside those connections so that it helps keep corrosion out and helps the wire bond with the connector. I've found that on battery connections for equipment and vehicles, it's invaluable. It makes such a difference in the way that the terminals keep a good connection, and it eliminates that corrosive buildup that happens, that crystallization that happens on the terminals. It just fixes like so many problems before they have a chance to become a problem. Vehicles that use a lot of accessory connection things like police cars that have all those accessory lights and cameras and things going on, or specialty vehicles. We started making sure they had good solid connections, good batteries to begin with, but then also making sure that we used this bonding paste on all of the connections, and just made a huge difference. So I've just gotten in the habit of putting it on all the battery connections. When I have one off, I paste it with that stuff and put it on there. Find it works better than most of the battery solutions, I guess you'd say, for automotive. You know, they have like terminal spray and all this kind of crap, and it just doesn't seem like any of them work that well, especially not compared to this stuff. And I just got it from like Home Depot or whatever, on the electrical supply. This one's called OxGuard. Okay, I guess that gets us back down to letting out some aggression on some door panels and hood panels, I guess. I've got to take the hood off and try to straighten some of this out. It's the unfortunate part about it that this is the corner that's the hardest for me to see, and it does kind of protrude out, and it's just thin sheet metal. So when I'm rotating, this is not a zero-turn machine, and so this corner protrudes out about a foot, 10 inches, something like that, past the track. And that's all to the sacrifice of this hood. So I'm going to see if I can pound a lot of that out. There's also a little spot here that's, I don't even know when or how, but same concept. That corner rotates out. So I'm going to try to straighten out some of this tinware while I have that off. Before I got the machine, it looked like somebody had kind of smashed the fuel tank. You can kind of see that it's crunched in a little bit right here and a little bit off kilter. So I think at some point that cap was off and not sealing correctly or something like that. And I've noticed that because my fuel filter will plug up. There is an inline filter before going to the main cartridge filter here. And that inline filter will plug up periodically, especially when I get to the bottom of the tank, running on empty, getting down low, and it's starting to pull that junk out of the bottom and pull that up, and then it'll plug up that filter. I've emptied the fuel, and I'll go ahead and change the filter. While I'm doing that and have these tinwares off, I'll get that tank unbolted, get it off of there, and try to get it steam cleaned, dry it, and reinstall it in a fresh, clean tank. When I'm working in the shop, I give Everest the option to help me or find his own project. Today, he wanted to work on a pencil cup for his little desk upstairs. That's cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now what you gotta do?
Cut it.
Cut that off.
Yeah, I already got that.
And then you're gonna bore this end?
Yeah.
So you need to bore that in before you cut it off, because you do. Are you gonna re-tenon it?
I already did.
I see. So you'll just rechuck it there and then bore the end. Okay. Sounds like a plan.
Huh?
How did it work?
Pretty good.
You good? Oh yeah. Ain't bad. Does it sit pretty flat and stable?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that ain't bad, especially for a pencil cutter. Right? If you wanted to, you could take the round point of the belt sander and kind of work a cove into the center point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Kind of dish it in that way so you have a lot of
It's
room.
fine. It works.
It sits pretty nice and flat, so. That ought to hold enough pencils for you, right? Let me see that thing again. I first got his pencil holder done. It says he's tired of having his pencils roll around on the top of the desk and be in the way, so he decided he was going to make a little cup to put his pens and pencils in, and it's pretty cool. He wanted a flower type theme, so that's what he kind of tried for, was the base, the green leaf that cups the flower petals, and then the petals. It looks pretty neat. He did a good job with it. Just check for the overspray drift, like the wind drift, you know?
You want on your equipment, right?
I'd rather not be on the truck. This old boy I used to do a bunch of business with, that an old body man, been doing it forever and when I know him, and that's been, I don't know, 15 years ago or something, but he used to say that people that do body work with a ball peen hammer are peen heads. And he's probably right. But that's straight enough for me for now. That's a lot straighter than it was. Using the rubber mallet, the dolly, the wood block, and the rubber mat, all those dollies to take up the percussion of it and try to help shake it without just destroying it. So that's one down. Okay, that's good enough. I'm gonna take it outside. Put a little paint, primer and paint on it. That'll work. Just because I smashed it and mashed it doesn't mean it has to stay smashed and ugly. That hood's, I think, like $1,500 to replace. So I can afford a little bit of hammer time and paint just to make it a little bit nicer for now. I think I want to lay that down. I'd hate to have it tip over in the wind. I don't have enough in this can. I got one more can, but I can feel it getting light. Nope. Okay, we'll get the other can then. That'll work. That blended off pretty good now. Oops, I missed just a little bit. All right, so I got all those dents pretty well beat out of that hood. Got it fairly straight. There's still some ripples and stuff in here, and I could have probably worked at it a while longer with the dolly block and a hammer and try to get them more clean and better looking. But ultimately, I just wanted to get it back out to shape and paint it over so that it's not going to rust. It's just fine for me. I'm not trying to get it back to showroom quality. The front cowl, got that part all straightened out too and pretty well repainted. So while I was doing that, I repainted the front of the tank because it's out here and exposed, and the lid trim that goes over the top of the tank, and it comes from the back hood up to the tank. Repainted all of those. Then I decided to take the engine compartment hood off and touch up the paint there and get it repainted too. I'm basically done with the service on this. Changed all the filters, put new oil in it. Big things remaining left to do on this thing is tear into this main cylinder, the main boom cylinder, and repack it. The other issue, I have the same kind of issue on the thumb. We're going to break into that and get that resealed. And then we've got to also run a case drain return line for the auxiliary hydraulics. Then I also still need to do the final drives, but I won't do those until, I'll do those very last. And then as we go out with the machine, we're going to unbolt these rubber pads down to those steel grousers to get a better traction up here. And then while I'm out front, I've got to do some wear repair on my thumb. I think we're going to break this up into 2 videos because it's just takes a while to get through all this. Lots of fun stuff still to do. And I peeled off my cat sticker because I've got a nice little custom sticker that my sister made that we're going to put on right there instead. So that'll be pretty fun. I'm not sure I like anything about how this is going to come on and off of there. Okay. Now, if we're remotely lucky, this will transfer okay. It's always a little fun when you got these contours. Yeah. I like it. It's obviously not completely perfect, but I don't care because it'll probably end up getting scratched up pretty good in the trees and stuff this year, but it's there until it does. Look, I got no problem with the cat logo being on my machine. I got no issue with that whatsoever. I think that's a much better look for my machine up here on the mountain.